Andrew, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm just dropped off my kids home. So if you hear any shouting or screaming, then it'll be them playing next door.
I'm very used to it. I've literally sort of over lockdown, I turned the this little shed that I'm in into more of a little studio just to kind of escape the noisiness of my kids. So I can
Yeah,
escape to the end of the garden, and I'd be lying
lucky
if I
man.
said I only escaped up here to do a podcast. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I've got another podcast.
I know. I'm there. I'm there too. I'm very close to that, doing that as well.
Well, look, it's great to have you here, and I've had a look through your song picks, and there's some fantastic records that we're going to talk about today. I'm really looking forward to it. But we kick things off always with the song with the greatest ever intro, please. What you got for me today, Andrew?
I have got an amazing song actually by Diana Ross that isn't massively popular. It probably is in America, but not massively popular here in the UK. And it really gets it. I first really heard it when I was just scooting around on YouTube, and I saw this video of her playing in Central Park in 1983 or 82. And she started off with this song, and the intro was just spectacular. It's really dramatic and really intense. And it was like the early evening dusk performance in Central Park, and I thought I've got to get this track. And I then found out that it was written by Michael Jackson and produced by Michael Jackson as well. And, you know that they were quite close through Motown and stuff.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's I just love the drama and the theater about the in the intro. So yeah, it's called Muscles by Diana Ross.
yeah. It was huge in the States, that record, wasn't it? And I think it was a single in the UK, but I don't think it kind of done anywhere near what it done stateside.
No, no, it didn't. I think it was just too weird, I think.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I guess that would have been maybe around the time, maybe was that when they because they worked together on the Wiz, didn't they? The Wizard of Oz thing. I'm sure both of them were
Together
in. Yeah,
from
that would have been
from when he was really super young. Yeah,
yeah,
all that Motown family and stuff. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, how much of an influence has Motown been on you?
Do you know what? I never used to really be into Motown that much. Growing up as a teen, I was fiercely into, obviously, grew up with reggae because my Jamaican heritage. My dad used to bring records back every time he visited in the summer. So he used to bring back stacks of 7 inches with the holes cut out, and he used to hand them to me, and I used to run off to the front room and play them over and over again. And then I started getting into disco late to mid '70s. So I was obsessed with disco and chic and all this stuff from America. And but Motown was always, I don't know, I'm not sure why, not really sure why. It just wasn't in my kind of on my radar.
Yeah,
But later on in life, after I started writing songs and listening to music from a different perspective in terms of songwriting and structure and melodies and harmonies, I just think that anything that came out of that label and also Stax is just phenomenal. I mean, some of the songs even now just blow me away.
it's ridiculous
It's
the
ridiculous. Honestly,
amount
I don't know.
that come
I
through.
don't know how I don't know how they they created so many incredible songs.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really weird because I often ask guests about songwriting now and the fact that when the brand new Heavy started or when Motown originated, like during those times there was still a very sort of formatted way of getting exposure for your music. It'd be sort of radio and it'd be press and now things have changed. Where we're seeing these apps like TikTok, and we're seeing that the importance of getting exposure via certain Spotify playlists and things like that have become kind of important for marketing bands now. And a lot of the things that I see within them, whether it be TikTok or Spotify, and I don't
Mm.
know loads about that because I'm a 50-year-old man. I've got no place messing around with TikTok. But I watch my children and I watch how quickly their thumbs move and their attention spans are getting quite short. And so they're getting these bite-sized blasts of music. And and I guess, we're probably not going to see record labels championing a Bohemian Rhapsody or a Papa Was a Rolling Stone because of the length before you get anything. You know, you just get that groove before you get any kind of drop. And I think a label now for most sort of pop acts, I guess I should say, that it's not going to happen. And I think, but when you look at those early Motown singles, like they were all probably under 3 minutes, and right from the off, whether it's Uptight, This Old Heart of Mine, they're all just absolute straight away grabs you, and it's like, this is just perfect pop music, and it's just going to keep giving. You ain't even got to the chorus yet, and it's so sickly sweet. So I've gone right around the houses here, Andrew. But my question is, do any of these changes in how people consume their music now filter through into the creative process of Brand New Heavies?
Because we are a heritage band, and a lot of our fans are quite old, well, older than, you know, the teenagers and stuff. Even though they do come with their parents to shows now, so not really, you know, because we don't have to. We don't rely on being on radio or Radio 2 or Radio 1 or whatever. There's no way we're going to end up on those stations now. So we don't really have to convert or shorten our intros or make sure the song happens quickly. I mean, there's all that is always, we always think about how song starts, and maybe from a DJ and a club's point of view, actually. But no, we just like to keep, we always like to keep things short and sweet as well. You know, even back in the 90s, you know, we had a pop mentality because our records were on the radio. But there's no real pressure to do that now. I mean, there's an algorithm in Spotify. I found out from a friend of mine, this producer called Mark Ralph, who does a lot of, but he does years and years, and what's that other? Lots of very popular sort of dance music at the moment. And he says that unless your record plays for longer than 30 seconds, you don't get paid on Spotify. So he basically the record has to grab you within 30 seconds. And that's an algorithm. So I guess that's why the short attention spans are being shortened, and everything's got to happen really quickly. So that's one damaging thing that I think that's happened.
But truly, if that's the case, that's so shit, isn't it?
It is really weird. I don't think people realize, and most people don't realize that 30, you don't get paid. If you play the song, if you're streaming a song for 29 seconds, no one gets paid. You see, it has to be over 30. So that's going to dictate a lot of how music's going to sound in the future. It's probably going to be shortened, I guess, the more music there is out there. But, you know, but on the other hand, you do get movies where you're a captive audience and you have to watch the whole movie. Even things like Frozen, you know, some of those songs are massive, great big, you know, epic sort of productions, and you'll listen to it because you're watching the movie. So maybe that's where things are going to go. You know.
Andrew, tell me the first song you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please.
The words, I remember I was thinking about that question actually, and I was thinking, you know, emotions can be happy, they can be sad, but the one track that really, you know, when you're growing up as a teen and you fall in love for the first time, that's you never forget that. You never forget that feeling, and everything around you is frozen in that time. And any track or movie makes you think of that first time you fell in love, or even if you fell out of love as well. But the track that was on, my first girlfriend was I was probably 13 or 14, and it was the summer. I can't remember the year. Sorry about that. But Give Me the Night, the album came out, and there's a track called Love Times Love, and I remember listening to that at this school disco. Was it like a sort of local disco at a church hall? I remember going up to this girl that went to my school and asked her out, and she said yes. And that track was on at the same time. So I always relate George Benson, Love Times Love, that whole album, and Give Me the Night, and all those other amazing tracks to that first feeling of wow, she likes me, and I've got a girlfriend and all that. So that's still a trigger, that track.
Oh, what a track it is as well. I mean, you know, we've mentioned the genius songwriters at Motown, but George Benson's not shy of a hit either, is he?
Oh my God, I've seen him a few times as well. So absolutely, I was in awe of him. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about where home was, and you know, growing up, and how musical was it? You mentioned about your dad bringing some records home. Tell me about home.
Home was in Ealing, West London. I don't know why. Usually, a lot of the Jamaicans that were coming over, West Indians that were coming over in the very early '60s, were living in either Ladbroke Grove or Brixton or areas like that. For some reason, my uncle came over in '57, Uncle Samuel, and he set up this building. He ended up having a building company, and he invited his sister, my mum, over, and they all ended up living in West Ealing, Northfields, a random area. So that's where I grew up, and that's where I met the other members of the Brand New Heavies, Simon and Jan. Went to school together with them.
Yeah.
So it was a lovely, quiet suburban, loads of parks and greenery everywhere, and that was my world. And luckily enough, Jan and Simon were into music as well, so they had guitars at home. And Jan's brother, the drummer, he was a bass player, and he gave me my first bass. I didn't know anything about instruments or music, but my real, the biggest influence was really my dad at that age, because he was really, really into music. There's no musicianship in the family, but I did have a pianist, great aunt. I found out later on. But living, growing up in Jamaica, the resources are a little bit scarce, especially in the '50s and '40s. But it's in my blood. I haven't had that many lessons. Haven't had any bass lessons. A few drum lessons at school, but I think it's just something in the family. And I just got very, very lucky.
So was it records on at home all the time?
All the time. My mum even strung up this. She had, for some reason, my sisters were in dance. They went to this dance school, so she had to have a reel-to-reel tape player. I don't know where she got it from, but all the music that my sisters used to choreograph their dances to were on this reel-to-reel. Because somehow my mum managed to record from the radio onto the reel-to-reel, and then she hooked up this speaker in the front in the living room, and there was just music playing all the time. And it was just completely normal. It was, the radio or records that they brought from Jamaica. But there's a lot of music in the house. And even at that age, you just don't think, oh, I'm going to do music. I'm going to be a musician. And you just don't think that. You just enjoy the music for what it is. But all that time, it was all going in. I was just soaking it all up, ready for, what happened with the band.
You mentioned that you met Simon and Jan at school. I'm going to ask you for track 3 to tell me the name of the song that reminds you of your time at school, please.
You know what? The whole two-tone thing was going on at school. And there were 2 tracks. I chose Mirror in the Bathroom by The Beat, because that was, there was something about that. There's a darkness to that, even though it was quite sort of jumpy and bouncy track. But yeah, I had this image in my head about what this bathroom was like, and the mirrors and all that stuff. It was very evocative, and really got under my skin, that track, in a nice way. But there's loads of tracks like, what's the other one? The Selector and all that sort of stuff. But the two-tone thing was massive when I was just when I was just 11 or 12 at school, 12, 13. That always reminds me of school, because there was a guy that used to have this sort of quite cool dance. He copied the dance from The Madness or something, but he was really good at it. And when we had school parties, he was always in the middle of the dance floor dancing. So that's a very vivid memory of school days.
Could you see the importance? Could you see the importance, Andrew, of bands like I guess in those in the late '70s, early '80s, bands like the Specials and I guess very early UB40 that were multicultural bands, because it was quite groundbreaking, wasn't it?
It was. When before you saw that, it was just normal, but then you suddenly think, oh right, that's interesting, that's quite nice. It made me feel good.
Yeah.
That all these people were getting together, and there's no because you don't think about politics when you're a kid. Your world is what it is, and you just deal with it. But I did feel good, and I thought it was very cool that that music was bringing all these different types of people together.
Yeah, and I think when you look at those two-tone bands, whether it be the Specials, the Beat, Selector, that any kind of press shots of them bands they all looked like a gang, didn't they? They had like, they just looked like they should be together. It's just that kind of,
Yeah,
and I love that in bands. You know, I saw that, you see that in them really early press shots of UB40, really early press shots of Dexys, all of them bands from around there. They just look like
yeah,
a gang, and I
yeah,
love that. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. It's amazing, and it's probably because they hung
Yeah,
out and partied and just hung out with each other, and you can see that. It's the record companies that really try and sort of style the bands and make
yeah,
them look, but you have to do that to get to for mass appeal sometimes.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, they I mean, you can see the kind of the punk influence that was going on at that time as well, being influencing the two-tone movement and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was crazy in those days. I mean, you had lovers rock, reggae, punk, and the two-tone thing all happening at the same time, and that whole rockabilly thing was there as well, creeping into the charts.
And
So it
that
was a
was all,
great time.
and that was all of them sort of scenes that you mentioned, and the labels that were putting out a lot of that music were all quite DIY and independent. And
Yeah,
could you,
that was the beginning of the whole independent scene, wasn't it? Yeah.
absolutely, and could you make them kind of connections and see the lines drawn between that and then what become acid jazz as well?
I don't think what nowadays you mean?
No, like when the label was set up, was that something that you could see that that was creating a scene much like Two Tone, creating a label much like
Oh,
what Jerry Dam has done? Could you sort of see the sort of
not
similarities between it?
you know what? Not really. I mean, we were just babies, and we just thought, "Oh my God, there's this label called Acid Jazz. They want to record us." Oh my God, we were so excited. Someone booked a studio, and we could go in there and play our instruments, and then hear it back on the massive speakers. That just we if we died the day after that, we would have died happy just to hear your music coming back in a proper recording studio. And
It's
you
so
start
weird.
analyzing when you get older. You analyze it, and look at it in the past and stuff. But yeah,
It's so weird, Andrew. I've done 530 of these podcasts now, and whenever you speak to musicians and artists, they all talk about those early days
yeah,
of kind of, it's all to be played for, and just the excitement of doing the most basic of things, like you say, getting to a studio, playing the music and hearing it back. Most
yeah.
people go, they were the best days. It was so exciting and all to be played for.
Exactly. It was because it's not a job at that point. It doesn't become a job. As
Yeah,
soon as you get paid, it changes.
yeah.
Because then it all changes. As soon as someone emerges as a writer, and someone else isn't a writer, and you get the hangers on and the girlfriends and the sometimes a few drugs here and there, but then it starts to get. Then you start to kind of it's less about being a group and being together all the time, and more about just having fun and the music. And then you start getting mortgages and bills and stuff like that. So the motivation is not purely just pure fun;
Yeah,
it's money as well. But I think because we went to school together, we always had that foundation of being mates. We
yeah.
always had that. We still are. I mean, not so much with the drummer Jan, but yeah, I see Simon more than I see my family sometimes. But yeah, if anyone's listening out there that's starting a band or early on in the music business, um, or you want to be successful or famous or whatever, just really cherish the early days and cherish the reason why you spend all your pocket money on a guitar or on a sequencer or a laptop, an iPad to make music. They
Yeah.
are going to be the best days of your life, and just cherish and enjoy them.
When you was at school, like you say, when you met the lads from the band, was was there anything that you wanted to do, or a career choice, or was music always the focus?
Isn't it? It was never the focus. Never the focus. When I realized, because I was quite good at art, and I didn't realize that until I was 16, 17. And I got my A level A pass in art, and I found it quite easy. You know how lazy boys are. You just want to do something easy and efficient. So I thought I'm going to do a degree in fine art and then go to design school and become an industrial designer. That was what I was going to do. And but at the same time, I started art college. We got offered a deal, and I remember my lecturer, my painting lecturer, told me, Andrew, you got to make a decision. You can't do both. Because I was trying to hide the fact that I was in the studio when I wasn't at college. But the photography lecturer at my art school knew someone at Chrysalis Records, and she saw, and the teacher at school saw a picture of me with Chrysalis written on the bottom, and then she said to me, "Oh, that's why you're never in school, never in college." So I had to make a decision that summer, and hopefully it was the right decision to stay in the band.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out all right. Yeah,
not bad. Yeah.
Tell me about the first record you remember buying from a record shop, please, Andrew.
First record. I know it sounds like I'm making this up, but the actual first record I took remember counting out my pocket money and then calling Jan and saying they've got a copy of Le Freak in Lullaby of Broadway's, which was our local record shop, like very, very local independent record shop. And it was a 12-inch and it was 75p, and it was a lot of money in the 70s, 1977, no, 78. So we put, or was it 75 each? I mean, it might have been £1.40 something. But we put our pocket money together, toddled off to the shop, found the record, got them to play it, and then we bought it. And we used to share. I think he used to have it one week because he couldn't properly record onto even cassettes in those days.
Yeah.
And I had it one week, and he had the after. We kind of swapped it around at school. And that was Le Freak, but it was the 12-inch version, the full length. I think it's probably 6 minutes or something. But that was the first record I bought.
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, let's take a moment and talk about Nile Rodgers, because we've seen from the heyday of Chic and the incredible music he was making there, through to multiple artists, obviously Diana Ross being one of those that he's produced fantastic records for, and then I guess kind of in the the 90s we didn't see a lot or hear a lot from Nile Rodgers, and the renaissance now is huge. Everybody has realized just how incredible this artist is, and you can go and see Nile Rodgers play Chic and all the other songs that he's produced and written, and what an absolute genius.
Absolute genius. Yeah, I mean they're a big influence. Bernard Edwards especially. I mean, there's songs I can even just pick out of my head a song called Dream on Dreamer that the Brand New Heavies released. And if you listen to the bass lines, and there's something that he does, he plays very, very short notes and they're octaves. And I know at the time when I was writing the bass line for Dream on Dreamer, I wasn't really thinking I'll just copy Bernard's line, but a few years after, I'm listening to it, and I thought, and I realized it was massively influenced by him.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what track, but if you just listen to those two, you'll see some similarities. And I'm noticing it a lot with a lot of other bass lines. And I hope people don't think that I've just been copying other bass players, but that music just goes into your soul, and it comes out when you're being creative. It all comes out. We actually met them as well, and I think it was 1990 in New York. We went to this Chinese restaurant, and I met up with them, and I was just, yeah. They're both.
Oh man,
they're both there because he didn't pass until, when did he pass? It was after that anyway, obviously, or it was a lookalike, and we just hung out with them. Didn't really get to talk about music because we were too scared that we were going to bore them. But yeah, I mean that's one of the most amazing moments to meet them.
Yeah.
But yeah, big influence on the band, groove wise, and especially his bass playing.
Tell me a little bit about the early 90s and throughout the 90s, when these three lads from school that were mates had created this band that become a huge success. And do you think that it was really important that you had that friendship in place before the band blew up? Do you think, between the three of you sort of kept each other grounded, or did you, or you might go the other way, the three of you wound each other up to become even more crazy? I don't know. Like, tell me a little bit about how, three lads from school, all of a sudden, you're on covers of magazines, and, you're on the TV, and I always like to tell us a little bit about that. And then I want to ask you about Top Charts.
yeah, because it at the time it felt it wasn't a really super quick thing. We didn't just meet up and then get signed and then we're now on TV. It was a gradual process. We used to meet up in the summer holidays and just jam and try and sound like try and sound like Herbie Hancock and the Headhunters band, and
Yeah,
also the JVs. Those are the two things we wanted to sound like them, you know. So we tried to mimic the their grooves and the funky, absolute incredible funkiness, and the meters as well. They were our go-tos for grooves, you know. But again, I'll say again that we never used to put the record on and then copy it. It was just the feel and the just the feel of how funky they were. We tried to mimic. But yeah, I mean, I suppose it was like a 2 to 3 year process, and at that age, it's quite a long time. So we had the chance to develop and morph and get used to being on stage and used to having fans, you know, shouting, screaming, whatever on stage. So it was a very gradual process until we signed to the Delicious Vinyl in 1990. And then, you know, we got flown to America, straight to West Hollywood. I remember meeting the bass player from the Bangles the second night we were there. And all these other crazy people, Herbie Hancock one week, Al Jarreau and Lenny Kravitz and stuff. And we used to turn to each other and go, what the is going on? And we used to have these little internal giggles that no one else saw. But it was us telling each other, oh my God, this is like a dream. It's happening. But then we'd turn away from each other and just sort of, you know, be cool about it and say, yeah, we knew this was going to happen. So that friendship really, it did ground us. Actually, it grounded us. You know, we always, yeah, we just give each other little glances and nudges and just to stay real about it. You
yeah,
know, and we never got sucked into the whole fame kind of press. What we never believed our own fame. We're always quite very English about it and self-effacing and you know, we found taking compliments quite difficult. When Stevie Wonder's over there starts singing your song at some award ceremony, yeah, we just thought, why is he? We're always quite, oh, was he told to sing it or something like that? We never really believed our own success, but that's what kept us grounded, I think, and
you
still
talk
around today.
you talk about being very English, and one of the very fabrics of English music is Top of the Pops, and you know we all grew up watching that show because you know around the time when you would have been watching the Two Tone bands. That was the only place that you could see music. You know that
Yeah,
it was Top of the Pops Thursday nights. That's where you got
yeah,
your hit of seeing what your pop stars look like. Um,
yeah.
Tell me how it was going on Top of
Well,
the Pops.
well, I always instantly think of my mum, because she was, I mean, surprisingly, they were actually very supportive about. I mean, they knew that I was at art school and doing a degree and everything, so they were proud of that. But and they never, maybe because I kept it quite quiet about the music, but they never told me to go and get a proper job. They were very supportive with me and the band. I think mainly because I was with my friends from school, so there was no chance of me getting, you know, joining a cult or something like that. But they were very supportive, and like you said, everyone, that it was the pinnacle of success. I mean, it wasn't just like having a thousand views on Facebook. If you're on top of the pops, you were pretty serious cats. And because it was watched at the peak, it was watched by 22 million people in Britain.
That's crazy, right?
And growing up, I remember seeing Susie Quattro on there, and I was obsessed with her for some reason. And I remember seeing her on there, and I never thought I'd ever be on there, but I think every child, every person knows that when you're on Top of the Pops on the BBC, you've kind of, you know, you've not made it, but you're on your way,
Yeah,
very, very close, because it was only charted bands that were on there. And I promised in my head to my mum, to myself, that I'm gonna, no, I was gonna say, I'll say that differently. I knew that if I told my mum I'm on Top of the Pops, she'd be very happy, and she could tell all her mates at work and feel proud of her son. So when we did go on the first time, I told her, and I saw that glint in her eye, and I just felt so happy to make her that
Yeah.
happy, you know. And she used to have people. She used to work in a charity shop, but she wasn't. I think she was she retired quite young, so she used to do a lot of voluntary work and work in a charity shop on the high street in Ealing. And then all of a sudden, a lot of her friends used to come in and talk about the band. And I saw your son on TV and all this stuff. And it just made me feel so good because I know that I made her happy. But yeah, getting on top of the pops I think we all realized at that point then we've got a career here. That was the biggest thing. I knew that we weren't just fly by night, and I knew that we would get, you know, more album deals and we'll travel and stuff like that. So it was a very special moment. We ended up being on it about 5 or 6 times as well. So that's very nice.
Okay, so with success comes partying. Tell me about the song that soundtracked your years clubbing.
Oh yeah. Is it Gwen McCrae? I Believe in Miracles. Is that what I put?
Jackson Sisters.
Jackson Sisters. Oh my God.
That's I Believe in Miracles, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said Gwen McCrae.
I mean, we could talk about Gwen McCrae as well because, oh God, yeah, talk about
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I Believe in Miracles I think that was the track that, in the whole rare groove scene, that was the track. If any DJ put that on in a club in London, the club would just go wild. And I remember dancing to that. We were quite into dancing and being funky and stuff like that, and dressing up and everything. So I remember dancing. I remember when that came on, I used to love dancing to that. I used to be able to get a few soul spins in, and and I got quite good at the spins. So and it's such an amazing track. There's so much energy in it.
Yeah.
And it just seems to go on and on and on and build up, and the dynamics, and it just get more and more exciting towards the end of the song. So yeah, that was when that track came on, you knew you were having a good time because you could dance your heart out to it.
Absolutely. Whereabouts was you going clubbing then?
Mainly the Cat in the Hat and the Wag, really. I mean, the Cat in the Hat was a club that Barry Sharp and Lascelles Gordon started in around probably 87, 86.
Yeah.
And that was we had our first ever concert in that club. They put us on because we gave them a tape of us jamming in Jan's bedroom, and I knew in my head that it sounded just like a record. We had this Jan's dad had a really cool mic. He was a headmaster of a school, so he had this Sony stereo mic, and we recorded ourselves over the course of about 4 or 5 hours, different positions of the mic, and at one point it sounded like a record. So I said, you know what, we should go down to the Cat in the Hat and give it to the DJ, and he took it, and then we were waiting around. Is he going to play it? Is he going to play it? And suddenly it came on, blasting out the speakers, and everyone carried on dancing. And we thought, wow, maybe we are good. And then a few weeks later, he was at our rehearsals, and then he found a singer, and he joined the band, and we started doing many, many more gigs in London, at the WAG Club especially. Every Thursday we used to play down there. I've forgotten the question now. What was the question?
No, I just wanted to know what clubs you went to.
Oh yeah, so yeah, that is mainly those two. We went to go to Billion Dollar Bay, Blitz, all the clubs in Soho and the West End we used to go to. Even non sort of soul funk ones, we just used to love going clubbing. It was a different time then as well. You know, it was easy. You know, it was easy to get into town on the tube and go clubbing and come back out. But yeah, it was mainly the WAG Club upstairs, Black Market it was called, and the Cat in the Hat in Leicester Square.
Wonderful. I'd like you to tell me your favourite song from an artist from your home county, please.
Well, JK, Jamiroquai, he was an Ealing boy. We used to hang out. He used to go around on his skateboard. I don't know I'm not sure what he used to get up to, but it was always on his skateboard skating around Ealing. And he was really into music as well. We didn't know at the time. But one day when I think we were at the Acid Jazz office, and his friend who actually got us our first deal, a guy called Tunji Williams, who got us our deal when we were very young at Chrysalis Records. He said, "Guys, I got this guy as a singer. You should get him to sing. Get him singing with. Sorry about that. You should get him to audition for your band." And then we jammed with him. But we always saw ourselves as a band with a female singer, like, you know, Vicky Anderson, James Brown, that kind of setup. So we did have a jam. He's a great singer, great mover. But we decided not to choose him as our lead singer. But yeah, he actually auditioned to be the lead singer of the band Heavies.
Wow.
But he's, yeah, good old Ealing boy. And yeah, I was just absolutely blown away by the stuff that he put out, especially Cosmic Girl. And basically anything from the first 2 albums, I just thought, wow, this is just unbelievable. Yeah. And we were quite jealous because he got a little bit bigger than we did, even though we started before. So there's always that that kind of rivalry going on. But
that's healthy, though, right?
Huh?
That's healthy, though, isn't it?
It is healthy. It is healthy. But I wanted a Ferrari at the age of 22 as well.
I think he had about 15 of them, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He did. But he took me for a ride once. He took me for a ride. I bumped into him at a petrol station in Notting Hill, and he had a Modena. He just got it, and I said, "You've got to take me for a spin." So I jumped in, and he nearly killed me. I think he was showing off so much that he just missed this corner. And it was exciting at the time, but God Almighty, he's a nutcase, but a fun nutcase.
Fantastic. Well, look, we've got to your last track, and for this one, Andrew, I'm going to ask you to tell me a song that you think many people may not know that you would like them to hear, please.
I think when you're associated with a certain genre of music like soul or funk or hip hop, people think that if you don't listen to anything else, and I think it's almost like you can't sort of be open about what you like and stuff. Honestly, I like tons of different stuff. I like a lot of 70s rock and American. I even listen to country music. I'm really, really into it, because if you're a songwriter and you don't listen to country music, you'll never be able to write a song properly. They're genius at writing songs, because they keep it very simple, and there's not a lot of production, so you can really see how a song is built listening to country music, even from the 70s. Rhinestone Cowboy, if you haven't heard that lately, put it on and just check out that song. It's an amazing song. And there's another band called Bread, the guitar man, that is an absolutely, I remember playing it to a friend of mine. He thought I'd gone mad. But I was in that kind of songwriting mode, the guitar singer-songwriter mode, and it's a beautiful song.
The pre-chorus, the pre-chorus to Rhinestone Cowboy, before you get that chorus, which is huge. The pre-chorus is phenomenal.
Do you know the song? So you're a fan of that song?
Glenn Campbell, I mean, he sings Wichita Lineman, which is one of the greatest records ever written. And
absolutely. I can't believe I'm speaking to someone else that likes that. He's honestly, I play it to my kids before they go to bed.
Yeah.
When they were young, I played it like every night for about 6 months.
Yeah.
So it's in their heads now. But yeah, the the section before the chorus. I mean, that's actually, it's just as important as the chorus. It's probably more important. But yeah, then in the Elkie Brooks, I always thought she was cool. Pearl's a singer in the 70s, and but then I met who played this track to me? It was Norman Jay played it at a club, and I went up to him and said, who the hell is that? And he wouldn't tell me who it was. And then he finally, after a few weeks of pestering him, he told me it was Elkie Brooks, and I couldn't believe it. And I spent the next 10 years trying to find it on vinyl. Luckily, they invented iPods and Spotify, and I've got a copy of it now. I managed to find one in Germany, in fact. But it's a brilliant disco track, and it's a great song. And you just don't really relate Elkie Brooks with a banging disco track, you know, especially the intro. That there's a glissando. You know, when you pull your hand down a piano keyboard, it's called a glissando, and there's so many of them in the intro. And I think I love a decent glissando on a song, on a disco song specifically. But I love that track. It's called The Rising Cost of Love, and everyone should should eke it out and hear it, listen to it, dance to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, look, we've spent a lot of time talking about other people's music. Let's talk about yours. What's happening?
Lots going on at the moment. We've got a I hate saying greatest hits, but it's a collection, let's say, a collection of our popular songs. It's called Never Stop, and it's basically the last, all our time. We spent a long time on Warner Brothers, and all the stuff we released on Warner Brothers on the album called Shelter and Brother Sister. They've chosen all the best songs and a few remixes that no one's ever heard or that weren't released commercially, and that's coming out on vinyl and CD on the 28th of September this month, in a few days' time. So that's been on pre-order for a few months, and we've got tons of, we've got another album coming out next year, another collection of music, and they're re-releasing Brother Sister next year. We've got a brand new studio album coming as well at the end of next year, and we've also got 3 dates in November where we've invited the London Concert Orchestra to play with us. We're playing at the Barbican on the 9th, which has just sold out. So we're working on that. I'm actually, my stress level's gone up a little bit over the past few weeks because we have to basically rewrite we have to write a 2-hour show with a string arranger, and it's beautiful to do, but it takes a lot of work, a lot of focus. But yeah, so those concerts, there's one on the 9th at the Barbican, 9th of November. Could you help me with the other 2 dates? I haven't got them in front of me, but we're playing in the Birmingham Symphony Hall and Manchester Symphony Hall as well.
I'll put the dates in the show notes for this episode, so people can find out exactly when they are. And also, if people want to keep up to speed with all of the releases and all of the shows, where's the best place to find out about all things Brand New Heavies?
It's Facebook. It's Brand New Heavies Facebook, Instagram at Brand New Heavies at Instagram, and just to, you know how easy it is to find bands these days. Just Google us, and everything's on our record company website, which is thebrandnewheavies.com, but it's got hyphens between all the words because we couldn't afford the someone had already nicked the Brand New Heavies, and we weren't going to pay $9,000 to get it back. So
absolutely.
So yeah.
Well, if it's cool with you, we'll tag you on all of our social media posts for this episode as well. So if people have found you already, then they can do so. Andrew, it's been an absolute delight talking records with you. Thank you so much for giving up your time today, mate.
Likewise, and sorry about all the jiggery pokery before getting here. But
we got
I
there,
appreciate
and it was totally worth it, mate. Thank you so much. I'm going to press stop, but don't go anywhere.